I love the sporty spice situation you got have on right now.
Cheers.
Okay, yeah. Salud.
Now you brought up the inspiration for my outfit, sporty spice. Okay, who's your favorite Spice Girl? Do you have a favorite Spice Girl?
Scary spice. I feel like I'm channeling her today actually with these moños.
We're definitely having like a Spice Girl theme.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I wanna really, really, really want, as you can say.
Follow her on Instagram. She keeps you entertained. She gives you the information. She gives you the analytics of what's going on in the pop culture, everything, girl.
All of it. You do it.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the journey? Because I know you were a dancer. You moved to LA to dance, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And now you're in tech. She's doing diversity and inclusion in Snapchat.
Yeah, I was a professional dancer. I had a quarter life crisis like most people do at the age of 25. And I was like, if I don't give myself the big jump of a kind of like a jerk to my career right now where I'm in my prime, I'm never going to do it. I went from living in Gurao in a two-bedroom apartment with a wraparound balcony in medio del campo, living my best life, having a car, the whole thing, 25 minutes from mommy, papi. I was in like this tiny, when I say micro studio in downtown LA. The bathrooms were like communal bathrooms within the building.
I'm sorry. I cannot believe.
Oh yeah, it's been a journey. No bathroom.
I bet you had a heart attack.
Oh, you have no idea the amount of times I've cried and screamed. Like,
it's a Virgo, ladies and gentlemen, sharing a bathroom.
Conversations that I had with the Lord. I was like, baby Jesus, what?
Going from the comfort of your home to going to this total different experience.
Yeah. Like I would have those conversations with myself. It's like, you chose this, you are here, you're gonna make it work. And it wasn't easy. I had part-time jobs, obviously, so I can pay the rent. One of the jobs was a receptionist at a hair salon, and the other job was a waitress at this pizza shop that was connected to a music theater. The owners of this music theater are the ones that used to put on the Santa Monica Pier, the Twilight concert series that they would do every summer. And at this point, I had given up dance. I was very frustrated with the way the industry turned out to be. Every problem that I found in Puerto Rico and the Latin industry was existing within the American commercial industry.
What problems? Because I don't think we've ever had.
Yeah, of course. The topic of favoritism and you got to know who you know is always going to be a thing within any kind of talent industry, right? There was a very tight sub-select of dancers in Puerto Rico and in Miami that got every gig. And it's like, how do you compete with that? And it was very rare that they were allowing or choosing new talent to come into these tight circles. My mentality was like, if you can't see me for me and my art for what it is, and my talent for all of the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into it, I don't want to be a part of this narrative. All of these little things. And I think the biggest thing, the stereotypical vision of a woman. For many years, I had a pixie. For a while, I had a shaved head with only just a longer part. I have never been a fan of plastic surgery, and it's a big thing within the dance industry. I wasn't walking around with the, 20-something inch hair with the big boobs and the big ass, and therefore I would be on gigs or in auditions, and the feedback was I didn't look feminine enough. Dance is so hard, right? Like any art, you're constantly being told no. And you have to go home and like reassure yourself, like, I'm still good at this. Like, even if they tell me no, I'm still good at this. And that was a moment where it was like, it doesn't matter how good I am. I am not what they think of when they think of female. And I was just like, I'm tired of fighting this.
Do you feel like there's been changes at all since you stopped dancing?
Noticing how androgyny has become a little bit more in. It's becoming part of the narrative of what artists want to see alongside them. People are being a little bit more confident with who they are, I think, just in general. I think the industry just in general just has no other way to go. Like they just accept it or they're going to stay behind. Yeah, I do think so. But for the most part, you look at every single award show, it's exactly the same. It hasn't become a change that has caused enough ripples to actually cause a change. So full circle, going back, my waitressing job. You know, bitching and complaining to a coworker one day, and one of the managers heard me. He was like, "Listen, we got this concert. We always need cocktail waitresses." They were like, "Oh, listen, so the event this year is actually being sponsored by Snapchat." And they were like, "Yeah, they're gonna have a VIP section. It's gonna be super cool. The VIP section is gonna have a section for the CEO, his executives, his friends and family. We need somebody back there as a liaison between their events team and their security team and our team. You're the only one we trust. So you're gonna go hang out with the CEO of Snapchat." And I'm like, okay, here we go. And by the end of it, first night, feet want to like fall off of my legs. I'm so exhausted. I'm collecting my tips, and my boss was like, "Hey, they like loved you." And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, they like really loved you." Fast forward, at some point, they asked for my resume. Week 9 comes around. And at this point, I know everybody's name. I know everybody's wife. I know
Every week, these people.
every week, every Thursday for 10 weeks. And at this point, I think it was going to be the last week because nobody was going to show up the actual 10th week. So this is the last day I'm going to see them all. And I'm like, shit, man, it would have been really cool to get a job with them. And the VP of Security and Workplace Services, Marty, calls me over. He's like, "Sophia, let's talk." You go to a corner. He's like, "Listen, if I don't hire you right now, everybody behind you is going to kill me." He was like, "I saw your resume. I see that you're a receptionist right now. We don't have a receptionist, but we're getting a lot busier at the office and we're thinking of getting one. Why don't you be our first receptionist?" He's like, "You're destined for a lot more. We'll figure it out on the way." I'm like, "Deal." He was like, "All right, you'll receive your offer tomorrow."
Wow.
And I can't believe I'm going to go work in tech. Who works in tech? And that's the biggest problem. That as minorities, as people who come from random ass places in the world that are not the Stanfords of the world and the Harvards of the world and the uppity white schools of the world, we don't know what the fuck we can do in tech.
The time that I have been doing this interviews hasn't been long, but every conversation that I've had, always the topic comes up of I didn't even know this was a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, exactly. And it's just access. We have no access.
You don't think of the possibility of doing something like that. And I
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing is that like right now, you know, it's more so nonprofits that have to be created to teach kids who are in inner city schools about STEM. Um, Not the Board of Education. We're going to have to create a program on the side so that they can get this access because the Department of Education isn't willingly providing this, but they are in the schools that are majority white. Systemic racism. All that to say, now I'm in tech almost 4.5 years this week. I've done a little bit of everything. I started our Latino employee resource group, being able to work in a space right now where I'm fighting for the person who is like me, the one that is not expected to be in these spaces.
I thank you for what you do because it's one of those things that it goes unnoticed.
Mm.
But all of us that have struggled seeing ourselves represented on media, thank you because you are at the forefront of making sure that our voices are being heard, and that we're present. So
I love that.
I think that the work you do is fantastic, and I know how passionate you are about it. I know you live and breathe this. You're constantly finding out ways of having the conversation, which is the most important thing. Having those conversations is really important within our community, because even within our community, there's so much things we need to change, that we need to talk about, because we don't talk about them in our community.
Yes, exactly.
Doesn't exist racism. What is that? Like, no,
Mhm.
that's not a thing. And the job that you do brings those conversations forward, and I think that's fantastic. You went through something that a lot of people our age don't ever experience, like what you went through, which is a cancer. How was that for a young woman like yourself in the peak of life, finding out something like that?
Everything happens for the reason, and the universe conspires. I have gotten a lot closer to the concept of the powers of the universe as like my base of spirituality. It all makes sense because this was probably coming no matter what path my life was going to take. And I'm okay because I am in the situation that I am now. I had amazing health care and I was able to be taken care of by the best doctors in the country. And it was like, this is why. This is why I'm here.
You how you found out?
So everybody touch your boobies. I was getting out of a shower one day, early 2018, and held my towel up against my chest and felt something. So I'm on my way driving up to NorCal and I call my mom. I'm like, Ma, ¿cuándo es que se hace un mammogram? And she was like, why? And I'm like, I felt something. I don't think it's anything, but I just was wondering, like, what is the age that you start? She was like, as soon as you get back to LA, you send up an appointment, you get that checked. Went, got my first mammogram. Woo, child. They were like, listen, you have multiple lumps in your breast, 2 on your left breast, 1 on your right breast. The 2 on your left breast look very normal. So they were like, again, you're young, you should be fine, but just in case, we're gonna do a needle MRI. That was, I'll say, like a Wednesday. And a Friday, I had taken the day off. My sister was in town because shout out to the universe. And my doctor called me. She was like, hey, could you come in? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually with my sister in Calabasas. Does it have to be now? She's like, oh, you're with your sister. That's great. Bring her. And I immediately knew. I'll tell her I'll be back. And I left Natalie at the shoot, drove down to the doctor, sat there, and she delivered the news. And I cried and called my mother, told her, then had to leave and go pick up my sister. And I got in the car and was just, and Natalie being the champ that she is, she looked at me. She was like, all right, what's the deal? And I'm like, I have cancer. It was December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. And yeah, it was a somber Christmas. I was doing my best.
Listen, I cannot imagine. Like, mira, I went through it in a different way. My mom had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and es como you don't think it's real, and it's like
it's literally all a dream. It's all a dream.
And then all of a sudden you take moments. You're like, what?
But yeah, it was surreal. I decided to again push forward. The next day, I went to my favorite spot in LA, which is Echo Park. Sat there with Natalie, and I said, I'm going to keep this quiet until I know I'm okay. But I have to tell certain people because if not, this is not the news that you want to just find out about randomly.
It's also a lot to carry.
You need your group. You need to know that you have people around you. I made a list of people that I was going to tell, sat in Echo Park, made all my phone calls. I wasn't comfortable saying the word cancer, so I was calling it cabrón. I'm not going to say the C word. So I'm just going to nickname it cabrón. I would appreciate if you can go along with that until I'm comfortable with the word. And everybody was like, yeah. Nobody cried on the phone with me. I didn't cry on the phone with anybody. I heard from most people that they hung up and then cried. Which is shit because I didn't want to make anybody cry.
It's scary when someone that you love is going through something so hard. Also, when someone that you love is going through something like this, all you want to do is take it away. Like you want okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have no power to do that. So yo me
That's the crappy part, that the entire thing is powerless, right? And like it's really up to your doctors at that point. After a couple of scares, I'd say 2 breakdowns. Got the tumor removed on January 11th, that there was no visible form of cancer outside of that one place in my body, which meant that chemo was probably not going to be a thing, which is great. I didn't want to go through chemo. And that was the day that I posted on Instagram my picture in the hospital bed. And I said, cancer 0, Sophia 1. And I was like, I've kept it a secret. Please respect me. At some point, I'll say more. And I did all of that and never really took time off of work. I worked through the entire thing.
Yeah. Honestly, like hearing you talk about it and hearing you be in that place where you're scared and where you're alone, it makes me so emotional because it's like nobody will understand unless you're going through it. And it's
the thing is that also I chose not to allow anybody to understand it, right? Like I processed it super late. The last time I cried was after I had my genetics read. I carry a gene that says that it's at least once or twice in my lifetime I'll have breast cancer. And they told me that, and I was like, wait, what's wrong with my body? And I went out that night with the crew
Yeah.
and was destructive as fuck. And I did shots, which I don't do shots, and I was partying hard. And I was doing everything to not think about it because I was like, I can't believe that there's more shit. Why is there more shit? And I remember we were hopping into an Uber to go to the second place, the after party, whatever. And I get in with Seba, and he looked at me and he was like, no bullshit. What's wrong? And I lost it and looked at him and I just said, I just don't want to die. And I couldn't say anything else. And I get emotional. And he told the Uber driver, he was like, I'm changing the address. And we head back to his place. And out of nowhere, the rest of the group walked in. And he had texted everybody, like, don't go to the after party, come this way. And everybody came back and they sat on the couch with me. They ordered McDonald's fries because they know how much I love it. And we watched some stupid show and everybody was literally just hugging me the entire time while I was, for the first time, letting it all out. I think that was the only time that I allowed my people to like truly help me in that sense. Because other than that, I was trying to take care of everybody else.
Es importante, tú sabes, like that we talk about it because I feel like our coping mechanism is similar. Like it was my mom, right? So it's like I didn't want to feel it. I get what you're saying, you know, and like you don't know that you're going through it until you look back. What the fuck?
Yeah, literally.
You're like, damn, like I was going through it because I was just silencing my thoughts as much as I could, going out. Lo hace mucha gente. Because you don't want to make people uncomfortable. And because a lot of people don't know how to what to say. And to be like the bummer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm glad that you had a group of people that you could confide in and you could tell and they could support you porque eso no lo tiene todo el mundo. You've gone through a lot. And I feel like as we're growing, I feel like we grow into our spirituality. I feel like you start somewhere and as you develop and learn and live, your spirituality changes.
I kind of think of it, you know, when I was a child of like, yeah, the obvious is you believe in God and you pray to him and you do your prayers at night. And my father is an avid prayer. He prays in the morning, he prays at night. And that has stayed with me my entire life. When I moved to LA and felt lost and just didn't understand what was happening with my life and why I was there, I would pray and write to God. It made sense to me at that moment. And then life got busy. And as per usual, that's the first thing that kind of gets lost in the sauce. And then this happened. And I will say, thankfully, I never sat and asked God, why me? For some reason, kept on pivoting back to the universe. And the only reason why I pivot back to the universe is because I think that there are powers to be within the earth, within the air that surround us that push things to be what they are. I do believe that I have an angel that watches over me, which is my grandfather, and he's constantly in my life doing random ass things, making my life a lot better. And I felt him more present during that cancer time as opposed to God. I had to have a conversation with myself. It's not that I don't believe in God, but what has changed? And I think I stopped seeing God as my only resort to answers and realized that I was equally powerful enough to find those answers within myself, to find the answers within other people, which I truly do believe are placed in our lives for a certain reason. And when I'm grateful now, this is almost 3 years later, I thank the universe and I thank God for giving me the strength, but I also thank the powers to be, whatever that is, right?
I think that is when you really feel spirituality in a tangible way. O sea, no es tangible literal, pero por ejemplo, like the older people in the family, the mi abuela, yo siempre sentía que mi abuela me protegía, siempre lo sentí, siempre lo he sentido y siempre he sentido que mientras they've all passed on, especially
Mhm.
las madres en mi familia, mi mamá,
Yeah,
mi abuela, mi bisabuela, te juro, eso es lo único que a mí me trae paz es when I think that they're there watching me,
there.
that they're waiting for me, whatever happens. And I
Yeah.
think it's important for us to always remember our ancestors and the things that they went through and what they have taught us through their lives, you know?
I'm happy that my spirituality specifically no longer lies on this one being. I started to feel more connected to earth. I started to feel more connected to the wind, to the sun.
If you see it that way, you could say that God is in everything. God is in the sun, God is in the plants, God is in my
Yep.
family, God is in my friends, you
Yep.
know? And
Mhm.
and that's the way that you can really connect to it instead of thinking of of something other than. Vamos para el round of lightning questions. Hero, your hero.
Oh, mom,
If you could be anywhere in the world right now, other than where you are, where would that be?
Italy.
Pet peeve.
For some reason, I just thought of people chewing or smacking their mouths loudly. This that noise kills me.
Favorite music to dance to.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with salsa, but reggaeton is right there.
An artist that you're super into right now.
Freaking Bruno Mars and Anderson Pack. Leave the door open. That has been my shit. They came back with fire. Woo, what a mood.
If you could do something else other than dancing and tech, that's what you're in. Is what other career path do you think you would have chosen?
I wanted to be a forensic psychologist and work with the FBI to solve crimes.
If you could eat just one kind of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Pasta.
Favorite curse word.
Ay, puñeta. It gives you that like that oomph, you know?
It's great. It's great. It's great. It's very versatile. Gracias por venir al brunch.
Oh, thank you. I wish we were not, 3,000 miles away from each other. We could actually do brunch.
Que tenemos otro brunch coming soon, pero en persona.
Yes.
¿Okay?
When you're in New York, it's happening.
It's happening.
Hey, thank you, my love. This was so fun. So fun. I appreciate you. Love that you're doing this.
For sharing everything you share with me and for being part of this. And I love you so much. And I'll see you very soon.
Blessings on blessings on blessings.